Hey everybody, we have a tip for you today that is going to revolve around the report of findings. What does this have to do with exactly, Rana?
Yes, we're gonna cover a specific objection that you're gonna get most often when you are in a report.
And quite often you're going to hear this as a polite way to say no. It's a polite way to kind of excuse themselves from your practice. And really what we're talking about is when you lay out your recommendations and then someone looks at what your finances are, they're going to say, you know what, I just need to go home and think about it. Or I need to go home. And what is the most common thing that we hear?
I need to go home and talk to my spouse.
Right. And let's just call it what it is. 9 times out of 10, it's a guy going, I need to go home and talk to my wife.
Right.
And the truth is, it's often these older couples where someone's there and they really just don't want to hurt your feelings, or they're trying to be polite. And usually it's a gentleman saying, I want to go talk to my wife. Now, the reason we're doing this in front of Big Ben, and right on cue we've got the bells, is when we hear this, number one, they're being polite and saying no for now. But number two, what are they really doing, and why is this so detrimental for students, for doctors in the report of findings? Why is it detrimental when they say, I want to go home and think about it, or like we hear commonly, I want to go home and talk to my significant other, I want to go home and talk to my partner, when the exact line, forgive me for saying this, but the exact line is, I want to go talk to my wife.
Yep.
Why is that so important?
Well, what it does is it adds time onto the sales cycle, and there's a key thing with any sales. I don't care if you're selling, groceries, if you're selling, healthcare like we are, but if time kills all deals, ultimately what happens is they're just adding time to the sales cycle, and they're pushing that off. And the further that they push it off and they push it off, the more likely the answer is going to be no later on. So if they can make a decision there in the room, that's ultimately what we want them to get to do initially, and then they can justify that decision at a later time.
So we really are in front of Big Ben here in London. You can hear some of the noise. You probably saw some of the double-decker buses. But the reason we wanted to do this particular tip in front of Big Ben is time kills all deals.
Yes.
So when someone says, hey, I'd like to go home and talk to my spouse, as soon as you let them go home and talk to their partner, their spouse, their roommate, or in this situation, it could be their wife, what's the likelihood that they come back?
It's very, very unlikely.
I think in 25 years, I've had like 2 people come back.
Yeah.
One person came back to get directions, for something else, and the other one actually came back and said, she said yes, and it was like the first time his wife had ever said yes to him. That's a story for another time. But the whole idea is, once they go home, they don't really come back. When someone says, I want to go home and think about it or talk to someone, they're just adding time to the sales cycle. I'll give you a couple examples, and then we'll turn this into a role play for you. One, you're at a spinal scan, and they say, let me just take a business card. What are they really saying?
They're saying no.
They're adding time to the cycle. So you're at a health talk, and someone says, let me get your office website, and maybe I'll call in later. What are they really saying?
They're saying no, they're just adding time again.
Time kills all deals. When they add time to the sales cycle, it works against you. So again, here in the report of findings, someone's going to say, let me go home and think about it, or whatever their excuse is. When they add time, we want you to be thinking like a true successful chiropractor think. They're not saying no, they're adding time to the cycle, and that works against you. So in the role play, we'll teach you how to handle that, get them to a decision now, and ultimately making you a better report of findings student, even before you're a doctor.
Right.
Anything we should have added?
No, I think the role play is going to be huge.
Yeah, so we'll give you some scripting, we'll give you a role play. Time kills all deals. It's working against you in the report of findings, and we'll show you some real crafty ways to get them from a no to a maybe into a yes, and you can really warm these things up. You can really start to change and transform your practice. And again, we're here in London, in the UK, and one of the first things we talked about was how do we add value to the students. So here we are in front of Big Ben talking to you, because your future is important to us. We care about you, and hopefully you see that with some of these on-location videos. And now we're going to give you the goods and the content to go with it. Cool?
Cool.
Cheers from London.